The day I moved into the old house nestled at the town's edge, a mixture of excitement and a bit of nervousness danced in my stomach. It was the kind of place you'd read about in novels or see in a heartwarming movie. A bit worn around the edges but brimming with character. The garden was overgrown, the paint was peeling in a few spots, but it was mine. It represented a fresh start, a new chapter. My name is Emma, and I was ready to fill its rooms with laughter, dreams, and maybe a bit of my quirky sense of style. Initially, the house was everything I hoped for and more. The mornings were greeted with sunlight streaming through the windows, highlighting the dust motes dancing in the air like tiny, jubilant specters. The nights were calm, with a silence so profound it made my own thoughts seem loud. I cherished the solitude, the way the house seemed to embrace me, offering refuge from the hustle of everyday life. But as the weeks slipped by, a sense of unease began to thread through my days. It was subtle at first, a misplaced book I was sure I had left on the coffee table, now resting on the shelf. A window I remembered closing was found slightly cracked open, letting in the chilly evening breeze. I laughed it off, blaming my forgetfulness or the quirks of residing in an older home. But somehow, trying to laugh it off just didn't feel right, like I was just pretending not to be freaked out by all the weird stuff happening. The nights grew restless. Sounds that I had initially dismissed as the house settling, a creak here, a groan there, now seemed to carry weight, a deliberate stealthiness that set my nerves on edge. I told myself I was being silly, that the shadows clinging to the corners were mere tricks of the light. Yet, the constant fear persisted, and little did I know I was in the presence of an uninvited guest that refused to leave. Everything came to a head one fateful night. That night, after wrapping up another late shift at the bar where I worked, the quiet drive home offered no hint of the terror that awaited me. Working as a bartender in a cozy spot downtown had its perks, good tips, friendly regulars, and stories that could fill a book. Among the faces that blurred together night after night, there was one that stood out for its harmlessness, an older gentleman, always seated at the end of the bar, nursing his drink and watching the world go by with quiet eyes. He seemed as much a part of the furniture as the worn-out bar stools. Never would I have imagined the role he'd play in my unfolding nightmare. I got home at about 2:30 a.m. The weight of exhaustion hung heavy on my shoulders. The darkness of my house felt more suffocating than usual, a stark contrast to the lively atmosphere I'd just left. My keys, usually a welcome sound marking the end of a long day, now clanged in the silence like a warning bell. It was then, amidst the stillness, that the sound of footsteps shattered the illusion of safety my home had always provided. Fast, heavy steps that spoke of desperation and fear, mine or his, I couldn't tell. The slamming of the back door served as a dreadful confirmation of my worst fears. I was not alone. Frozen by the realization, my mind raced through every possible scenario, each more terrifying than the last. The thought of someone hiding in my home, observing me from the shadows, was paralyzing. This was supposed to be my sanctuary, a place of refuge. In that moment, however, it felt like anything but. It felt invaded, corrupted. When the police arrived, the atmosphere was charged with tension. I watched, feeling detached from my own body, as they moved through the house. Their search ended in the attic, a place I had always ignored, dismissing it as just another part of the old house's charm. What they found there was a chilling tableau. A makeshift bed, surrounded by food wrappers and, most disturbingly, items of mine I hadn't even noticed were missing. The realization that he had been living there, watching me, twisted my stomach into knots. The invasion of my privacy was complete and utter, a betrayal that cut deep. The man the police apprehended was the last person I would have suspected, the quiet, harmless-seeming regular from the bar. Middle-aged, with a look in his eyes that seemed more lost than malicious, he was a living ghost, a shadow that had crossed the boundary into my real life. Known to the police for minor offenses, nothing in his past suggested the depth of his obsession. To think that someone I saw almost every night, someone who had seemed so benign, had been silently stalking me, watching my every move with a possessive interest, was horrifying. The revelation that this seemingly harmless regular had been the one intruding into my life left me reeling. The breach of my sanctuary by someone I had been in close proximity to without ever really seeing shook me to my core. His presence in my home was a targeted intrusion, a personal violation that went beyond physical spaces and into the realm of psychological terror. The bar, my workplace, and a place I had associated with camaraderie and laughter now felt tainted by his unseen gaze. In the aftermath, the once comforting walls of my home felt alien, as if they too had been violated. The shadows lingered longer, and the silence was heavy with unspoken threats. The realization that I had unknowingly interacted with my stalker had served him drinks with a smile, unaware of the darkness lurking within, was a betrayal that left me questioning everything I thought I knew about safety and trust. Moving to a new town, I sought to reclaim the sense of peace that had been stolen from me. The new apartment, surrounded by the bustle of life and the proximity of neighbors, offered a semblance of safety, a buffer against the fear that still lingered. Yet, the experience left its mark, a shadow that followed me, whispering of dangers hidden in plain sight.